Morning, folks. It's the old soldier coming at you today from Robeson County, North Carolina on another cold, frosty morning. If you notice, the environment here is slightly changed. Woke up this morning, went outside and discovered a screw in the side of my tire on my truck. So, in respect to safety regards, I'm taking Mrs. Old Soldier Soccer Mom's van to work today. And so that's why our camera angle's a little different and a little shoddy, and we'll try and get through this. And hope everybody's doing well today. As we get ready to go into the weekend. And who knows what's going to come out of the weekend when it's all said and done. Because, you know, read a report last night that Fox News has called Georgia for Joe Biden. I still don't buy that with all the voting discrepancies that happened there in Fulton County, Georgia, in DeKalb and Cobb counties. Not to mention misplaced or hidden votes in Floyd County, and several others, if you will. So, I pray justice is going to prevail through all this. My hopes is that it goes to the Supreme Court, and really, actually, to the House. I would honestly like to see the House have to make the determination. But again, with that being said, it's hard to say what the enemies of this nation will do to even stop that. I won't be surprised at anything they do. Won't be surprised at anything they say. Won't be surprised at anything that they try to pull. The real question is when is the American public as a whole going to wake up and see this for what it is and stop believing the lies that are being spread and the lies that are being told. Half the country cannot see that their freedoms are being taken. And they keep drinking the Kool-Aid. And it's sad. It's sad on so many levels that our nation has come to this. There's already rumors out west, certain food products starting to become short in supply. How long will it take for it to roll to the East Coast? I don't know. All because of this pandemic that's so overrated. So, what's the word I'm trying to look for here, boys and girls and boys of all ages? Mind-numbingly brainwashing. That's a good way to put it. Mind-numbingly brainwashing. I was listening to a video yesterday where the gentleman in the video, and I'm going to put a link to this down in the description this morning. You can listen to this. It's a gentleman has a radio program, I guess, but anyway, they videotaped it, they recorded it on YouTube. I'll put the link down below in the description. way you can hear this for yourself. But this gentleman, he is a British doctor, works here in the United States now for a pharmaceutical company here in North Carolina. One of the companies that is working on, I think, the vaccine per se. But he's a doctor, and his credentials are very impressive. At one time, he was the president of the Royal School of Medicine in the UK. He has served in similar positions in Canada and taught at schools here in the US, I believe. Either way it goes, he's got some very prominent credentials in his field of endeavor. And he goes to elaborate to us that the whole thing with the mask is just to scare people. The bit about the vaccine, you know, he just talks about how the virus itself, what its real impact is, and the vaccine, how almost to an extent trivial in a sense. But he gives some rather deep insight to it. I think you ought to take a listen to, pay attention to. And I like how Dan Bongino put it yesterday. Might not have been yesterday, but in an earlier broadcast of his, that basically they're trying to develop a vaccine for the common cold. You know, the old joke's been running for years that people have been trying to find a cure for the common cold since ages on end. Folks, I don't know about y'all. I'm not so sure I'd want to take a vaccine such as this one that has been rushed the way it has been rushed. You tell me what you think in the thoughts below. I don't work for Uncle Sam anymore, therefore I'm not a mandatory pincushion guinea pig. And I like to question things in depth. Because I'm not one of Uncle Sam's children anymore, I've got the right to say no. Now, with that being said, I'm not knocking some of the vaccines that are out there, been out there for ages on end. The Department of Defense, when they one time mandated anthrax vaccines, there was a lot of pushback on that because there wasn't a lot of information on it. But the vaccine itself, for it, had been around for well over 25 years when the U.S. military started pushing for that. Now, what's odd, mind you, what's odd? I had to write a research paper on this when I went to one of my basic non-commissioned officer courses. Back in my day, we called it BNOC. And we had to write a research paper on anthrax vaccine, pro or con. Now, mind you, this was in 1999. This is before the attack on 9/11. Well before it. Why was the military thinking anthrax at the time? Because we all know shortly after 9/11, prominent people in the government started receiving packages with powder in it. Some were powder that had been laced with the anthrax virus disease. But why was the military gearing up in the late 90s? What did they know that the American public didn't know? I got to thinking about that last night. After all these years. What did the military know that the American public didn't? And see, back to that too, when we wrote a research paper, we had to either write a pro or con for the vaccine. I wrote mine as a pro for the vaccine, but with caution. Because the vaccine at the time was primarily for people in the wool and meat industry. Because back then, the majority of people that contracted anthrax were in those industries. And they were usually through what's called the cutaneous form, i.e. through a break in the skin due to a cut or a scratch or a scrape, and then making contact with an infected animal. The vaccine that we were administered in the military was the same vaccine the meat industry got. But the real debate was, would it stand up to the way a military attack would use anthrax? See, a military attack would either put it in a water supply, i.e. then you ingest it, or through an aerosol where people breathe it in. And anthrax has a very rapid onset, and usually people that contract it do not survive. That's a very violent death as far as the level of pain that people go through before they pass. Some have compared it to how people have died from rabies. Long story short is this. That vaccine had been around for almost 25 years at that point in time. But there was not enough known about the effects wholesale on a large amount of the population. In this case, the U.S. military, which is still a fragment of the U.S. population, but a substantial size force even in the late 90s compared to the rest of the world. Now you're talking about inoculating all those in the military. One or two people in the military had some violent reactions to the vaccine, so then they put a halt to making it mandatory, making it optional. And if you don't know anything about the vaccine for anthrax, it's a series of shots. Last time I checked, you had to have the initial, followed by like 6 boosters. And if you don't get them done in a certain time frame, you got to start all over again. Kind of like allergy shots, if you will. I had the first one, scheduled to get the second one. That was when the DOD said, no, soldier don't want to get it, don't make them. And that's when I said, you know, enough being a pincushion. And I got injected with God only knows what during the Gulf War. Took tablets that had no real research done on them. Told myself when I retired I'd never take another vaccine if I didn't feel comfortable, and I stand by that today. So the real thing is, if Clown Biden and whore Harris, there you go, are successful in their stealing of the election and their task force to fight COVID comes into play, rumor has it they're going to attempt to make the vaccine mandatory. Not optional, not no can do, but mandatory. I remember my mama telling me during her day growing up in the Depression, people had to get the polio vaccine once they developed it. And what it was, but parents still had to sign permission to allow the doctors to administer it to their child when they got to school. If the parents didn't give permission, the child didn't get it. But back then, polio was fairly rampant and deadly, and if you survived it, the outcome sometimes very bleak. Most parents gave in and said, "Yep, inoculate my child." So I'm not 100% sold that these pharmaceutical companies, both the two companies that developed the vaccine, so they say, you know, have had records of jacking drug prices up to triple their profits. So I don't have all the faith and confidence in the world that their vaccine is as successful as they say it is. Because if it were, why can't they develop a vaccine that would eradicate the flu? Somebody answer me that one. I ain't a doctor, and I ain't a research specialist. So I don't know the answer to those questions. But to me, if I put 2 and 2 together, it's supposed to give 4, not 5, like the left-wing liberal communist Socialist Party of America seems to think. But you need to watch this guy's video and listen to what he says. Because that's again falls into the communist playbook. Scare the public into something that they will trust the government wholeheartedly, 100%, and no one else. It's another way of winning the trust of the people so that you can usurp them and subjugate them. Make no bones about it, folks, that the Communist Socialist Party of America, i.e. liberal Democrats, that's what they want, is to subjugate the masses so that they can have an elite minority that can rule and live high on the hog and make themselves feel magnanimous. You know, look at this. We provided the vaccine for this pandemic. We've eradicated student loan debt. We've given reparations for people so they'll stop complaining about not getting reparations. Yeah, I got a bone to pick about reparations on a side tangent. And it goes like this. Go to Africa first and seek your reparations. If you can't get there, go to Arabia. If you can't get it there, go to Holland, Portugal, Spain, and England. And if you can't get it there, then you're just out of luck. Because if anybody's going to pay our reparations, England might need to pay not only to African Americans, but how about to the Scots and the Irish? Yeah, I said it, and I don't regret it. My point being there is, the time, you know, if there's going to be time for reparations, it's come and gone. To me, it's just a ploy by Black Lives Matter to get money that they haven't earned. Sorry, that's the way I feel about it. My Irish ancestors didn't get that and won't get it. There you have it. But anyway, it all falls in, like I said, to this communist socialist playbook. You think about this. Nancy Pelosi and all the ilk in her house presented George Floyd's family a folded American flag. Now, I'm not saying George Floyd's death was called for. And a lot of his actions brought what happened to him on him. I'm not saying that justifies his death. That is not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, his death did not warrant a token of one's service to this great nation when they die. Basically, that man's family was presented a flag as if he was a fallen soldier. Now, you tell me you don't believe that they're looking at him as a martyr to buoy up their masses in their army, i.e. Antifa and Black Lives Matter. But until tomorrow, folks, God bless. Take care. Soul Soldier out.